you go to pilot training and you become a fighter and you're trying to get a fighter, you have to be in the top 25% of several cuts, right? So you have to be the top 25%. So what's crazier? Embracing a large diverse pool, which is already going to get cut down significantly through just attrition and the requirements to make the cut for being the top 25%, and open a wider aperture to get more qualified candidates, or narrow that and hope that we're going to keep the level high. I think it's actually going to do the exact opposite. We need a big, diverse pool of highly qualified pilot training candidates so that when we make these cuts, we do retain the best of that.
All Fire, No Smoke is our candid conversation as two military aviators sharing the unique experiences we've had in combat, reconnaissance, and demonstration flying.
Through personal stories, technical details, and laughter, we explore the challenges of balancing leadership, motherhood, professional life, all while offering inspiring insights for those who are trying to strike that work-life balance.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by guests on All Fire, No Smoke are their own and do not necessarily represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the All Fire, No Smoke production team, including hosts, producers, directors, and consultants. The content presented here is for entertainment and general information purposes only. The All Fire, No Smoke name, trademark, and logos, and all forms of content are the property of its owners, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service, and cannot be used without the express written consent of All Fire, No Smoke.
But I think our listeners might be kind of interested in the dynamic of how, when we deployed to Iraq, I was your flight commander. I was writing your performance reports. You were a brand new baby two-ship air-to-ground only flight lead because we had no instructor pilots. And so I was your seeing eye wingman quite a bit. We flew a lot together. And then go fast forward, like you said, 6 years later, now you are the left wing, the IP for me as a right wing, brand new baby pilot on the Thunderbirds. How do you think, I think we did that really successfully, but what were some of our keys to success? And you were the subordinate going into it, and then the roles kind of reversed 6 years later.
So trust, ultimately the number one, if I could boil it all down to one word, it'd be trust, right? And so, Blaze, I remember when we were spinning up in 2007 was an interesting time at the, we were the first, or we were one of the plus ups from the George W.'s surge campaign in Iraq. So 2 F-16 units being pushed to 3. We were the third going in there, and we were getting all this new technology and all this stuff. And it was just it was fast paced, right? And I show up from Korea and, get thrown into your flight, and it's like we're spinning up and doing all this stuff, and then we go deploy, right? And so it's like the culminating effect is to actually deploy. And so, we hung out, but you don't really, somebody in your squadron, just hanging out at the bar and talking, just normal ops, and then you get to deploy and you get to know another side, at a different level, right? Everybody is multifaceted. And so with Blaze, number one, the first thing I remember about you as a flight commander is you care, right? You care about everyone, and you kind of took that mama bear approach of hey, you're in my flight, I'm going to advocate for you. And so, that builds trust, right? Right. So you're like, oh, awesome, this person actually cares, right? And then when we started deploying, the whole being a two-ship, being really limited, we got pushed out the door so fast we couldn't finish our normal upgrades. Typically, you're going to deploy as a wingman, or you're going to deploy as a full up instructor, or flight lead, which means you'd be 4-ship and air to air, air to ground, or you'd be finishing up your instructor, we call IPUG, instructor upgrade program, and then you'd be a full up instructor. And we had this weird, our letter of X's were a disaster. Letter of X's, for the listeners, is just our qualifications, and it's literally a letter of X's, and it just was it was not good. And so I would think on a personal level, if I could say, I didn't like being handcuffed like that. like I wanted to finish the program, right? I showed up from Korea, worked really hard from in Korea. I got pushed with good, like, hey, this guy's a good round, and then I'm like, oh, you're kind of you're good, but you're not full up, and I'm like, oh. So like flying with you, Blaze, we got combat paired quite a bit, and it was really cool because like it wasn't like, oh yeah, here we got to do this. It was like, all right, let's go, like let's go kill some baddies. I mean, let's go do the mission. And so we had some, remember that laser maverick where we didn't shoot the laser maverick in this, but this was like the worst. Like we're chasing this high value target and he's running towards Syria, and we're carrying the laser maverick, which was a gift, well, we purchased from the Navy, but then it's a Navy designed weapon specifically for a different mission. And it's really not designed to shoot off the F-16, and you have to shoot it as a two ship. You cannot fire this thing by yourself, which is, for an F-16 single seat, you typically want to do it it's easy to run yourself. And so with this a coordination nightmare, or it can be, and it was dusk. Remember, it was super hazy. We can't
Yeah.
get the laser maverick to lock in. We rolled in, like, I think you rolled in like 3 times, we couldn't get clearance on one of them. Comms are bad. I mean, it's like everything
Yeah.
you talk about in a war story to go wrong, it wasn't. But I remember, like, we came back and we ultimately did not shoot that weapon that night. But that it wasn't like it was like a really cool, I think, that teamwork, like we came back and we're like, dude, that was really hard, and we as a team did really well, and I think we learned a lot from that. But I think that teamwork and that level of trust, fast forward 10
Yeah.
years, um and then when you get picked up on the team, like, Bill and I, another guy on the F-16s, we're just super excited because we could trust you. Like, you know being a Thunderbird isn't anything special. It's just a lot of training, right? It's a lot of timing and luck for you to be chosen a Thunderbird, and we already trusted you. So like that was huge.
Absolutely. You know, Motor and I actually have not talked about that mission, I don't think, since we debriefed it in
Yeah.
2000 and what, 7? It was September
2007.
11th. It was September
Yeah.
11th too, because it was like, what more justice can you get for your country, right? Than employing on bad guys on September 11th. But I remember, yeah, the targeting pod wouldn't lock because of something that was wrong with that one specific laser mav, and they were so new that you could see like the thumbprints of the guy who like sealed the seeker head on them. Like that's how
Yeah.
few they were. They were being like hobbled together by guys at the company. But yeah, and I remember the big thing too, because we were like so fixated and we just kept going and going, and it got darker and darker. And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting pretty low here. And the moon illumination was not coming into play at all. It got really dark really fast. And then some of the rules of engagement we had also tied our hands on what kind of control that we could have to employ the weapon. So there were so many pieces and parts and ways that we could have like screwed up. And again, that trust, like neither one of us were going to let the other one down. And success doesn't always mean that you shot the missile,
Yeah.
right? Or that you killed the
Yeah.
bad guy. Sometimes it's, bringing everybody home safe. So that's pretty awesome. And I remember exercising your trust later on when we had that role swap on the Thunderbirds when we had a flight. So let me see if you remember this. My instructor was gone and I needed to have someone fly in my back seat. And
Oh yeah.
Motor was the left wing pilot.
Yeah.
And when
I'm
we
like,
go
what am
out
I
and do
doing on this
rolls,
side?
yes. So Motor was the left wing pilot. And every time you do a roll, and I was like pretty new, I didn't really, you have to do a lot of iterations to learn how to do this. And it was just the barrel roll. And I had to have someone in my back seat, and the outgoing number 3 pilot couldn't be there. So they put poor Motor in my back seat. Well, he's used to, they always roll towards him, into him, and it's away from me. So it was just completely different. And that was a lot of trust that he put in to me that I wasn't going to screw it up. I do remember some heavy breathing on both of our parts, but pretty uncomfortable
Yes.
with that outside of the formation
Very
rolling
uncomfortable.
to the left. Yeah.
Yes. That was funny. But like I think, like you kind of talked about like swapping, like as far as like now I'm an instructor or whatever. That's like for me, when leadership tie, just kind of like the motif of your all's podcast is, people that find value in roles, or names like I'm so and so because this is the position I am, typically don't make the best leaders, at least from my perspective, right? So like, you find yourself in the role that you are, right? And you work hard at doing right, doing a good job and helping those around you, whether they're under your tutelage or you're instructing or whatever. And so like from us, I think, Blaze, you took my line in the intro, right? But you're one of my favorite humans, right? So like, because I trust you and like there's no ego, right? And so like, when there are role swaps or responsibility swaps, it's like a non-issue, right? Because it's there's no ego, right? You take the ego out.
Yeah. So, in motor and everything that you've talked about, and thank you for all the compliments, and obviously the feeling is mutual. But I was one of very few women in our career fields, and you come from a unique position, having flown a lot. You and I flew a lot together, and then a lot of the studies that you did and all the data you collected as the pilot training next commander, I'm sure that you looked at this hot button topic of diversity. What are your thoughts on that right now? And, I like to say the jet doesn't care if you're male or female, but what are your big thoughts about diversity and how that kind of played into our career, and did that factor into your trust of your flight lead or your wingman?
Yeah, so, all this section is views mine, right? It's not, I don't represent the Air Force, any of the things I'm about to say, or my current employer. These are, my own personal views, because I think there's a lot of crap, right? Like the whole DEI thing just gets me fired up as far as the name, because I think we're conflating two things, right? And so diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? So let's define DEI is the insinuation, at least at the geopolitical levels right now, is that if you are an underrepresented background, whether you're, female, minority, sexual orientation does not matter, that then somehow you got special treatment to be in the position that you're in. And I think my career, 20 years, never saw that, right? And like the issue that I have is that Air Force is, when we talk about a meritocracy, it is performance based, period, dot. You either meet the standard or you don't. I mean, so for me, the fact that we're spending time about all of a sudden we're redefining this and saying, well, hold up, if you got to a position of power and you're you're a minority or whatever, like all of a sudden, like there's a question, like there is no question. Like, I'm a combat veteran. Like I've flown in combat with people of all kinds of backgrounds. I don't care, and the enemy doesn't care. Our job is, well, as F-16 pilots, is to kill you so fast that you didn't even know what hit you, right? I mean, does it matter? The jet doesn't care. I don't care. I care that you're good, right? I mean, I just don't care about anything else. It just doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't.
So, thank you for saying that. And I wish you could just say that louder for the people in the back row, in the peanut gallery. But, you know, the relationship that you two have, Motor and Blaze, that you guys have, it just exemplifies the fact that in the military, we care about performance. We care about trusting one another. We put ego aside, regardless of our positions, because we know we have to get the mission done. And so it's about how well you perform and how well you perform with other people. And we know that talking about this stuff just takes your eyes and takes your focus off the mission and what really needs to happen. We're all part of the kill chain in some way, whether you're turning wrenches, whether you're flying the aircraft, whether you're putting rounds on target, whether you're doing battle damage assessment. And so I kind of wish that people in the political arena would understand that, and understand the more they talk about this, the more irritating it gets and the more it keeps us unfocused, and it's going to put people in danger. So, like, thank you for saying that. We're all professionals. As pilots, we all hold ourselves at a high standard, and our peers. There's no doubt about that. As a flight instructor, as someone who's training or following, we all do it. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys want to keep this in, but like I think what, Blaze, you kind of were alluding to, like what I learned on pilot training next, because we worked with the Air Force recruiting center, AFRS. And it was interesting to hear kind of like it's like the chicken versus the egg thing, and it's really not. And so what I mean by that is like um I came so I'm a white male, right? I came from a really poor rural area of Colorado where nobody went to the Air Force Academy. And when I went to my, counselor, I said, "Hey, I want to go to the Air Force Academy." They didn't mean it as an insult, but they said, "Hey, only really smart kids from, wealthy areas go do that." They never had somebody go to the service academy, right, and become a F-16 pilot, right? And they were all my biggest cheerleaders. Like, my town was 3,500. Like I had 100 people in my high school. So like I came from an underrepresented community, but I didn't even know that, right? I just was a kid with a dream. I wanted to fly fast jets. So for me, there was no barrier, right? But like, and so that's how I try to relate when people say, well, this whole thing about underrepresented. I say, okay, I am not the demographic of what we're typically referring to, but I came from a place that is, where the average medium income in 1995 was 27,000 for the household, right? My friends lived in single wides or double wides. Like we made jokes about it, and it was like that was the thing, right? So for me, this underrepresented thing is so if we're labeling this, then you're putting another barrier for someone that already is trying to break out of that. Like it's like we're doing the exact opposite by friggin' talking about it. And so my perspective is such that like we're we're a like United States is created by we're a hodgepodge of people from other cultures and communities, and everyone, we were aspirational. Think about the whole reason people came across the oceans and whatnot. It was to basically have a better life, right? And so we need to incorporate. I mean, we have been incorporating that. That's what I don't understand is like if you look at our US military, the faces of the US military is the United States. We're very diverse and we should be celebrating that. I do not understand why we're talking about what are we talking about, because we're already diverse. And so the big thing on what we learned about the underrepresented community specifically is it's why are your bomber and your fighter pilots second and third generation Air Force, Army Air Corps, right? That kind of stuff. It's because you grow up in a household that already knows what it means to serve, that you have a lineage, you have a tie, your family has served, right? And so when you go to pilot training and you become a fighter and you're trying to get a fighter, you have to be in the top 25% of several cuts, right? So you have to be the top 25%. So what's crazier? Embracing a large diverse pool, which it's already going to get cut down significantly through just attrition and the requirements to make the cut for being the top 25%, right? And open a wider aperture to get more qualified candidates, or narrow that and hope that we're going to keep the level high. I think it's actually going to do the exact opposite. We need a big, diverse pool of highly qualified pilot training candidates so that when we make these cuts, we do retain the best of that, right? And so when you look at like just straight like numbers, the more typically uses increases competition, not less. So from my standpoint, we need to, and that's all the services have been struggling with this as far as is recruiting is getting tougher, and it's for several reasons. One reason is I was just listening to Freakonomics, and they were talking about it's like something insane. It's something like 70% of all 18 to 24-year-olds are not service eligible. Just think about that. They're not service eligible due to weight, diabetes, um, uh, like bone issues, like I mean, just mental issues. Like it's
Records.
crazy. Yeah, records, absolutely.
Yeah. Jail
And so
time.
if you already have a population that is actually shrinking, like we should be figuring out how to increase the candidate pool.
So I I love the way you said that because I talk about underrepresented communities, and when I talk to kids in underrepresented communities, they're of all backgrounds. Like
Yeah.
it's not just a majority of kids of color or Latino, but there are, I mean, people shouldn't get it twisted. There are white kids in the pool. Like they're there. They just We just need to keep telling people out there that this is a possibility for you, regardless of who
Yep.
you are. And you're right. I want the biggest pool and the most talented people. And to cut people out is, yeah, it's disappointing.
Is it possible on just so we can add to the like what because Merle, I want to make sure that we're talking this positively because as you can tell, I'm passionate about what's going on, especially with I think the reverse of where I want to see DI. But I think I'd like to talk about like to the younger listeners. I kind of like to just kind of roll this up and say, hey, this is noise, and you need to ignore it because if you
Yes,
have a dream, you just need to keep going, right? And
absolutely.
so,
Absolutely.
okay,
No, I think the representation piece is huge. Uh, to reiterate that again, representation is huge in every aspect. Like we can't. I don't know how many young kids I talk to who don't think that being in the aviation field, whether it's turning wrenches, whether it's doing intel, whether it's being any piece of that, is for them. And when they see me or they see Blaze or Motor, when they see you, they like, oh wow, and they find out that you came from a small town of two people. Like it's that's huge for kids, and it makes a big impact. And for all these kids out here, it is a possibility. You can do some aspect of aviation. If you don't like to fly, there's so many other things to do. Like the world is open for you in the United States. And even though other people are saying that it's not, you got to keep pushing. You got to get in that mosh pit and just throw some bows, throw some elbows, and get what
that's
you
right.
want.
I like that. That's a good tie. The big thing I tell because I volunteer with EA. I do the Young Eagles. I fly kids around and I mentor kind of both in the civilian general aviation as well as in the professional world. It's just noise. So for the younger listeners, when you hear all this stuff, you have a dream, like just go after the dream. And I know it's hard to ignore, especially at the news cycle and the social media aspects, but just if you have a dream, figure out that checklist to structure it such that you're goal oriented, set all these intermediate goals that lead to the long term, goal of whatever that is for you, especially in aviation. We need more of everything. We need more pilots, we need more air traffic controllers, maintainers. We need it all, and we need it both in the military and civilian sector. So if you look at it from supply and demand, the demand is there and the supply is actually the limiting factor. So if you have any desires to be any part of aviation, I don't think it really matters what your background is. It matters if you're competent, you're motivated, and you're willing to do long-term goal setting, because all these jobs take years of work to be qualified to do.
Yeah. Well, and all of that noise, it's just smoke, right? Like that's all it is. And we had to do this. Merrill and I
No
did
fire.
this. That's right.
No
No, you are the
fire.
fire, right? You burn through that. Like we did that, and we thought we changed things, and things have kind of rolled back a little bit as far as the 4-letter word of DEI, these days being rolled back a little bit. It feels um a little bit more difficult potentially if you're of underrepresented groups. Um but it's been done before, and we moved the needle, and like you said, you just got to ignore it and do your thing. People have been doing that for a long time, and seek out those mentors and those leaders that can help you
Mhm.
like bring the fire through all of that smoke.
Yep. Like you said, Blaze, mentors. Find a mentor and just learn what you can.
And for mentors out there that are like, well, I don't have any mentees, you better go find one. I'm not playing with you. Like,
No weak sauce.
yeah, no, get on it. Like, that's your mission for this year. Find someone to mentor.
Yeah. I guarantee. Throw that out on Facebook or on a forum. You'll get plenty of people that are motivated. Yeah. So when you talk about the teamwork that goes into flying F-16s, I think the Air Force culture does really good job, especially in we call the B course or our fighter training units, FTU. That's when you've graduated pilot training, you're actually flying the F-16 for the first time. They do a good job of having you as a lieutenant. I was a second lieutenant when I flew the F-16, And, I'm 24, strapping a $30 million jet to my back. It was very apparent to me that, like, number one, I'm like, I cannot believe they're letting me do this. Like, if I fly the F-16 once and wash out, I can die a happy man, right? Like, that was my viewpoint of flying the F-16 for the first time, and knowing that it was much larger team behind it to make it happen, because the maintainers, you have to go out there and hang out with them and learn their jobs and stuff like that. But I mean, I think the best, like, I think, story that I've got about the teamwork and the uniqueness of flying on the Thunderbirds was, I flew tail 896 for, like, I don't know, 700 of the 900 hours I have on the team. And my crew chiefs, they were dedicated crew chiefs. And so my first year on the team, I'm flying the same jet pretty much every day, sometimes twice a day. And my primary and my dedicated and assistant crew chiefs are the same guys every day, and you really get to know them. And in fact, it was like I knew that I was a part of something special when we were flying the F-16. This F-16 we have to use a jet fuel starter, JFIS, to start the engine, right? It's an internal thing, and we have two of them, and and they fail over time. And so it was taking part a longer and longer start. And normally on the line, when you are a combat unit, you get into the jet, you start it, and boom, your JFIS goes bad. They pump it up, you try it again, it fails, right? Well, JFIS is bad, step to a spare. And you don't see the tail end of what happens as a pilot. You just know that the JFIS broke and maintenance is going to get to it. But, like, these guys are the guys who are going to wrench on my plane if it breaks. And we were so dialed into that plane. I was like, hey man, I think this is struggling. He goes, yep, it's struggling. He's like, I bet you get 3 more starts out of this. And no kidding, like 3 starts later, it's like done. And, like, we just were so dialed into all these things about the plane. And, like, I knew so much more about the maintenance aspect, and I could speak maintenance lingo much better coming off the team than I ever did prior. And our crew chiefs, which was really cool, was they got to choose who they fly with. Like, they all get a incentive ride when they leave the team. Some of them are there 3 years, sometimes 4. And so I got to fly that same crew chief. So Brad Butler, I'm giving a shout out, and I got to fly with
Woohoo.
Brad. And so we're over Death Valley, and he gets to fly the plane, right? I'm like, all right, you get to fly it, and we're just doing rolls, and that's that whole trust-based relationship that we talked about earlier, and that's culminating where, you know, I get to fly with, he kept me safe for those years, and then I get to fly him, and, it's just, that was what's really cool about the teamwork and the Thunderbirds got to put it all, like, in an intimate level that you don't see kind of on a daily basis.
Motor, it was nice chatting with you. It was awesome. Reminiscing about the third FTS days and hearing your
Yeah.
points on leadership. I love it. I wish we had flown back then. But I love hearing what you had to say today. So thank you so much. Thank you for being an advocate, and you know, I'll see you in the mosh pit.
Thanks, Merrill. Like, I didn't, I've heard, Blaze and I have talked quite a bit, and I've heard, this whole culmination of what you're putting together. And, I feel like I've heard a lot of the stories, but actually getting to put the face to the name and actually remember that we flew, or we weren't flying together, but at least in the same place on the planet at the same time. Both you and Blaze have awesome stories. I really like the fact that your podcast is positive in nature, and that you're giving great life lessons. But I can't believe you had me on the podcast. Like, your stories are way cooler than mine. I just happen to know cool people. That's what I tell like Blaze.
Well, Motor, I definitely think you're one of the cool people. And, like we alluded to, it can be difficult at times. And just like having you there to always have my back has meant a lot. There was like an incident where we were delayed starting an air show, and some old guy came up to me, and Motor was standing next to me in the crowd, and basically inferred that it was because it was my time of the month or something like that. And, Motor had my back, like, right there. He's like, all right, you can go talk to those folks over there they're waiting for you. So, just all these like weird little things that kind of happened through everything. Like, you always had my back. I never had to ask you for it. And you've sent me some awesome, great young pilots and specifically women to help mentor. So you definitely walk the walk and you talk the talk. And we're so happy that you could come and bring that onto our podcast today. So thank you.
Thanks, Blaze. Well, the feeling's mutual, and my daughter still wears her shirt. She's growing out of that shirt from our visit, as far as the museum and stuff. So, I think, as being a dad with, a girl, I've got a daughter, like I want her to have all the opportunities that I had, and so like having people like you out there, and she can see, whether she chooses to be a pilot or not, um, isn't the point. Is that, they're positive role models, and you're absolutely a positive role model to a lot of people, including my family. So thank you.